Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
Hello, everybody. It's Natural Born Redhead, and I am happy to have Lucia Severtson here with me today. I met Lucia months ago as a result of her formulation of what she'll explain to be the Brave Women's Project. We talked about my history, and as a result of talking once, we then decided to delve more into covert abuse and have spoken at least 4, 5, 6 times about covert abuse and its manifestation. So today I am blessed to return the favor to Lucia. She's going to talk about where she's at with her project and her work, and then we'll delve more into her personal story. Welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. This is really a privilege for me, and also I'll admit a bit anxiety producing. I've never really talked about my own experience. I've just used my passion for it to help others. So this will be new.
I empathize. It's a lot. So tell us about your work and your passion project, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah. So, well, I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm in the Denver, Colorado area. My work right now started for me probably about. Well, it did, not probably. It started in 2019. I was a therapist up until then, but it was at that point that I ended up having a mental health crisis of my own. And I was officially diagnosed with OCD, which I had all my life, but really just never admitted that to myself. And then it came on very strong in 2019, and I had an episode that needed treatment, and I got into the point of actually being suicidal at that point. But the gold standard treatment for OCD is exposure and response prevention. It's called ERP, and basically that is a fancy name for learning to face your fears. And being able to do that with a therapist. And so I started on that journey, and it was really what I felt I needed my whole life was, it was bravery. It was learning to be with your fear and be anyway, be living anyway, even though the possibility of bad things is there, and it can happen.
The possibility of what?
My fear,
I missed that word. Possibility of?
The possibility of bad things happening.
Things. Got it.
Yeah. My fears at that point where the OCD had landed was on having a terminal illness. I was definitely afraid I had a terminal illness. And I had reason to believe that there were things that I had a scare with my health. And it wasn't taken seriously by doctors. And so I lost a lot of trust. I had lost a ton of weight. I couldn't put it back on. I had done a lot of testing. They couldn't find anything wrong. And so my mind just went berserk trying to figure out what was happening. And nobody would tell me. And they just told me I was crazy. I needed counseling. And clearly on some level, I was not crazy, but I was sick. I mean, it had definitely triggered that said OCD within me. But anyway, through my treatment, I decided that I became inspired to only see women and to really focus on women's mental health. I realized that not only did I have OCD, but I had my own history of trauma, and I still have trouble saying that out loud, even though I'm a therapist, and I would say it to another client. None of my trauma is physical. None of it is sexual. It's all psychological from family. And I decided then that I was going to focus on women, and I was going to bring back my experience with creative arts therapies and create a private practice that was based in bravery and learning how to help women to overcome their fears and be able to design a life that is unique and right for them. So that's how Brave Women all started in my private practice. But about a year ago, I decided that I wanted to start a nonprofit called the Brave Women's Community Theater. I wanted it to be a autobiographical theater center for women where they could have their stories told and be able to have audiences witness that. And I had been doing that in my private practice, but I really wanted to grow that and make it a much bigger entity. I should mention I was an actor before I became a therapist. I studied many different places, and so a lot of my passion was around using drama and dance in therapy. And I had done productions with other women. I'd had some experience doing that, so I did all the unbelievable amount of paperwork you have to do to start a nonprofit, and got everything going. But then in my private practice, what I started noticing was how much I loved talking to the women who had complex PTSD. I really just loved being able to hear their story and be witness to that. And so I decided to get in contact with a organization called Safe House Denver here in that area. And they help survivors of domestic violence in a myriad of ways. But I asked them, could I please record survivors' voices for the purpose of helping others understand the journey that they go through, because I believe it's very misunderstood. And I want to present that to the community. I want to have a community event where people listen to those voices. And they basically said, absolutely. Go ahead, please. We would love that. So I started collecting survivor voices. I put out an ad on Facebook thinking no one was going to want to do that. But I had a large amount of women reaching out to me wanting to tell their stories, and I was just sort of blown away by that. And so I ended up doing 60-minute interviews with several women. In fact, I've done, I think, 28 interviews so far, and realized I love this. Yeah. I love being able to be witness to these people's stories. I love being able to be connected with them, even if it's just in a 60-minute journey, being able to hold them in that space. And I think that this is important beyond just the project that I was working on for Safe House. So because I had so many women reach out, I decided to create an audio library from it. And I ended up partnering with the Voice Library, who's out of New Hampshire, to be able to create that platform. So that is on our website now. And, that women can go on and listen to other women, be able to tell their stories. But then as I went along, I realized I wanted to have more impact, and these stories just felt so important to me. They were so impactful to me personally. And so I've decided to create it as a podcast called Braveheart Speak. And Braveheart Speak was a phrase that came to me while I was on my recovery journey in OCD. It's a very simple story. I went to go do a craft. I brought home a shirt that I was going to put designs on. And as I sat there, the words Braveheart Speak came to me, and I ended up writing that on the shirt with a megaphone. And I felt like it meant something. So I kept that with me. And I tried a few programs that were based in therapeutic improv that were called Braveheart Speak, and nothing ever seemed to fit with that title, was what I was trying to do. And then I realized, oh, it's the name of this podcast, Braveheart Speak. And so the intention of Braveheart Speak is to be able to give voice to women out there who have incurred all types of abuse across all types of relationships, to be able, through their stories, to educate other women and to inspire them towards making better choices for themselves interpersonally, to be able to spot abuse even in its subtlest forms, to be inspired to move past hardships, even though it might seem impossible. I've spoken to women that have done some impossible things and have made it to the other side. So I really see this project as maybe even I might have some blind understanding of how powerful or impactful it could be. On some level, I hope that it could even reach, government agencies, law enforcement, to better understand what this is like for the women that go through it. There have been really horrific stories of women being treated really terribly, whether that be through law enforcement or, just in the separation from their partners. It really being treated as if they are the predators versus the victims. So, and I was lucky enough to have you as one of my voices in that audio library. And we've spoken, I think maybe 5 times now. And it's been a pleasure to be able to facilitate you.
Well, it's a pleasure for me because it means I don't have to do it on Natural Born Redhead. And I have the luxury of, if you want to call it that, of having my story elsewhere that I can share on Redhead and have someone, you're as a facilitator, you're unbelievable. Because you get it. And now after what you've just said, now I know why you get it to a greater extent, because I didn't know a number of things that you just shared. So, and this is, I want this to be about you, but I'm naturally curious as a result of a couple of things you just said. So, and I don't want to be leading. At what point did you know your experiences were going to lead you towards therapy? Or was that pretty much always what you wanted to do? Because, I know for myself, that's why I'm doing the podcast. My podcast is to be able to talk about heavy stuff and get people on their path towards themselves. So how did you know? How young were you when you decided?
Yeah. So my journey to become a therapist is really based in having my history in the arts and in theater. I will say that me turning towards theater and wanting to be an actor was an act of total defiance towards my family. That was that was something that it was my way of being brave and doing something really against the current. But it was through theater that I found therapy, to be honest. Like, in my training as an actor brought out a lot of instances in which that work is very therapeutic. Though when you're training as an actor, they don't tell you that, and it's there's a lot that can come out. It's a very powerful modality. And so it was really, I had gotten a scholarship. This was when I was 27, so a long time ago. I had gotten a scholarship to study for 3 months at a Commedia dell'arte program in Tuscany. And it was a fantastic opportunity. It was a new school built by Americans in Arezzo, Italy. And I spent 3 months there learning physical therapy and really learning how to use my body in physical theater. And I learned how to use my body to create characters and to create those stock characters from Commedia dell'arte. I learned how to use masks as well, which forces you to use your body even more to express because the audience cannot see your face. And so it was through that experience that I realized, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't know if I want necessarily to be a performer, but I want to use this to help people because it's so helpful to me. I'm learning so much about who else I am. I'm expanding myself. I'm realizing there's lots of different people and characters inside of me. And so that's where that came from. And that's where it was basically a Google search from there of like, drama therapy, is it a thing? And it was an actual thing. And that's where I started my journey to find Lesley University, where I went to graduate school and received my master's in expressive arts therapies.
I get it now. I'm a little obtuse, so that's why I asked you to explain a little more. But I get it. And again, this is my opportunity to finally be those characters. So it's neat to hear that you had that opportunity early on and then could, figure out what you wanted to do with it for others. One thing that you do within your practice, and you and I have never spoken about it because it didn't apply, and again, it probably doesn't apply as much anymore since you're working with the women versus doing private practice. But can you speak a minute on ketamine? I'm ignorant, and I can imagine how it's utilized, but I'd like to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I decided to pursue being able to utilize ketamine treatment in my private practice, specifically for women who are suffering with OCD. OCD will always be a personal passion to me. I've done a lot more research and training and how to treat it, and ketamine has been at the foreground of helping people recover from OCD. So basically, I utilized ketamine to assist my OCD patients in being able to engage in exposure and response prevention therapy. ERP is very difficult to do, as you can imagine. You're basically saying, I'm going to look at what scares me the most. I'm going to go ahead and face that full on. And it's a really difficult thing to do. And what ketamine has provided to those clients is it's interesting. It's a doorway into more courage on some level. It's like after they take the ketamine, there's something more elastic about the brain. There's something that will allow them to take on more of the exposures and be able to to do those and work towards freedom from their mind's obsessions. Ketamine therapy, I have found also really helpful for clients with complex PTSD. It's interesting because it gives them like, I think when you have OCD and complex PTSD, you only have this small window in which you can see out of. Like you cannot really see as much, and there's lots more out there, but your brain is so programmed to work in a certain way for survival that it really can only see a little bit of what's out there in that window space. And what ketamine does is like, I think like it opens up the windows. It opens up being able to see way beyond what you had seen. And like, oh, there's a mountain out there. There's an ocean. There's all kinds of stuff out there for me besides the fear that I'm locked into right now. What I've found is that it brings out the sense of like, oh, this isn't all that I am. I've got so much more to experience, and I really want that. And so I want to be able to move through this. I guess I'm not, I feel like I'm not speaking as clinically as I should be. It's more of like from my own heart of what I've noticed from my clients. But that's what I've seen happen for them.
That's what I want you to do.
Good.
I wonder, and I've said this to you before, and I got to ask, and you probably know I'm going to ask it. Did any of the people you've spoken with then align with the autistic spectrum, or not so much? Did you see anything like that?
Yes, I've had a couple clients who have aligned with that, and it's been really helpful for them to be able to. I think even it's sort of freeing, right? To know like, oh, like this is what's going on for me. This is why I've felt this way all along. I've had a few clients that have ended up being able to embrace an autistic spectrum disorder, and have put two and two together through their experience, realizing, oh, that's why I behaved that way. That's why I didn't get it. I hear that a lot from clients who are on the autistic spectrum. I realized I just didn't get it. I didn't understand what was happening.
We're obtuse. And I don't mean it, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I just think, and this is all I'll say, is our brains also protect us in a odd sort of way.
I agree with you. I think having autism can be a superpower.
You bet you took us. All right, so now, just for logistic purposes, you already mentioned it, but mention again where women can go to access both the Brave Women's Project as far as the app, and then when are you starting the podcast, or are you waiting? Have you started it?
Yeah, we are working with a media company called Resilient Voice Media.
Say that again.
And it's called Resilient Voice Media.
Resilient Voice.
Yes. And their founder, Gabby Garland, is a survivor of domestic violence. And she got into the podcast business during the pandemic and has just grown exponentially. And anyway, I was just blessed to be connected with her, and so they are helping me to be able to produce this podcast with the episodes that I already have placed in the library and continue. I continue to do interviews, but they are helping us to professionally produce the podcast. So we are hoping to launch it by the middle of September.
Okay. And you will utilize the interviews you've already done, and then more interviews. Just voices, just audio, I would imagine.
It's just audio for now. I don't feel safe or right asking women to be in those vulnerable places to be on video. At least not yet.
No, I get it.
We have thought about doing. In fact, we are going to do like live podcast tapings at my studio in Denver, because we think it would have a really large impact. And I've had many women say, "I will come and speak." You know, I really want that platform to be able to come and just talk to other women and tell them my story. And so I'd like to be able to give them that. So we've decided, like, maybe once a month we will have an in-person taping of an episode, and there'll be a Q&A for audience members.
Oh, that will be powerful, because you'll be able to spare grief.
Yeah. And it's an active audience experience, right? And that's what I really want for the podcast too. Is like, this isn't just sitting down and listening to these voices. This is a witnessing process. If you're listening, you'll be witnessing, and I'm going to make that clear too. Of like, being a witness is a really sacred act. You know, you are allowing that person to be just as they are. You are saying, you're giving them an invitation to, please tell me more. I want to know. You know, it's a really loving thing to do. And so I really want people listening to be in that active state. Because even if they haven't been through the same thing, on some level, they can resonate with just the core, that core feeling of being abused, of being told that you just don't matter that much, you know?
Yeah. I'm going through another layer doing this podcast, the shame, and oof. That's why I'm writing. That's going to be my witness to myself that shit really happened.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think writing is being a witness to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, because as much as I'm enjoying doing this, and as much as I'm loving talking to you about me, I still owe something to myself for what I tolerated. And I don't blame myself. I did not have a choice. And the choices I made as a result of the indoctrination into abuse, I didn't have a choice there either. None of us do.
Yeah, I mean, not as children. Definitely not. I just don't. How are you supposed to know me any differently? Really, it's also normalized.
Do you want to? I mean, I'm very proud, and I don't mean to make it trite, that you are in a position. And I don't want you to divulge anything personal that you don't want to, but you are in a position to know enough about yourself to spare your children. They're at an age where this work that you're doing couldn't be more powerful for their ultimate well-being, which I just think is wonderful that you can not only have that for yourself, but offer that to others.
Yeah, this is something that I have gone back and forth about on this journey because it's like, why are you doing this work, Lucia? Why are you so passionate about getting survivors' voices? And I just have wrestled so much with myself about being able to come out more about my own experience, and also not really wanting to make it about my experience, because I feel that what I'm building it's not about me. It's about a whole community of women coming together. It's I'm sort of like, I just see myself as the conduit to it, but at the same time, I've struggled with, should I just say a little bit about what's happened? And also, Joanne, at the same time, I still feel, I'll admit that I have no right to talk about what I have experienced, because none of it was, I guess some of it was physical. I was a spanked child, but like, I also grew up in the 80s, but it's also psychological. And sometimes I even wonder, I'm here now in the presence of my family here in Ohio, and sitting with, my father sometimes, it's like, I know something's happening right now. Like, but if I were to tell someone else, would they see it as abuse? But, I know that it is, but it's so hard to convey to others, like the way that psychological abuse can show up. And so anyway, to say all of that, I feel like I'm rambling. To say all of that, I just want to take this opportunity to try, right? And you gave me this open door and this open window, and so this is my trying to be honest and be vulnerable, but not too vulnerable at the same time.
I got it. I think I've got it. And we'll wrap up this first session with one thing that I had said to a psychologist many years ago about sexual and psychological abuse. Why isn't covert abuse on the radar for men and women who have had sexual and physical abuse experiences? And the psychologist said they never get to the covert abuse. It's there, but they never get to it. Like, they focus on getting through the physical and sexual. So the psychological abuse is low man on the totem pole and ends up being holding the key to a lot of the healing.
That's really helpful for me to hear.
Yeah. I mean, my line, and I'll end it with this, for somebody close to me was, would it be different if I had bruises? And I don't remember exactly what he said other than his request for me to get over it. And I recently needed that line again with somebody for a story I'll tell later after you and I are finished. I had a revisit with a family member that I hadn't spoken with over a year, and they were no closer to understanding. They don't understand their own abuse, so they're not going to understand mine.
Yes, that's so well put. It's like it really is. Yeah, it's mystifying to them that what they're doing is wrong. Right. And for that risk of going for another minute, yeah. And then you have to say, I have to say, well, do I want to partake in accepting where they're at, or do I want to distance myself from it? And ultimately, I want the distance. I want to be able to say, I care. In some cases, I love you. I love everybody. I don't mean it in a way other than general love, but like it makes, it doesn't invalidate what we've been through, but there are other choices that are much more healthy, that isolating, yeah,
but healthy.
Yeah, I think you bring up a really good point. And that's a lot of the journey that I've been on too, is that I don't want to, I don't want to have regrets. And I know the full story of my father. I know his history. I have so much compassion for it. I don't see how things could have gone any other way.
Amen.
Unless someone came in to help him. Like, his circumstances were not going to allow him to be the parent that any child needs.
Yep.
You know, and so, and there are lots of things about him that are so complex, because there are times when I do see like just an innocent child kind of like trying to figure things out. For me, it's been this sort of like, I do want you in my life, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm trying to figure out when when it's an absolute no, how much time it's this process of just like, how do I fit you in, and how much do I fit you in, and particularly how much do I fit you in with my children too, because
Yep.
I do have to be very careful about that as well. Of like, I don't want him passing on any sense of being not good enough or nothing to them.
All right.
Like, that is something that, I cannot tolerate.
That's sort of what I was insinuating 10 minutes ago, that you have the luxury, in my mind, because of, it's hard, it sucks, you may do a great job, you may make mistakes, but just to have that insight. I get upset when I don't even know if I can say it. You know, I was too late to do right by my kids. Doesn't mean I fucked up on a level 10, but it means it's just made this journey more complicated. So I understand the complications as a result of doing it simultaneously. And I just, my hat's off. My hat's off to what you have to be putting your mind through, especially with OCD and CPTSD.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for acknowledging that, with OCD, it's an extra layer of fear. It really is.
Well, let's move on. We'll keep talking, but switch gears. Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.